wanted to get that on video.
Okay. You done?
I think so.
I sound so nasally right now.
You sound fine. You don't sound as bad as you think you sound.
How do you know how bad I think I sound?
Because I know you. We've been married for a year.
Great
That's
transition.
a great segue.
Today we wanted to talk about our first year of marriage because we have been married for a year now. We just were thinking back on how everyone says that the first year of marriage is the hardest.
Thank you.
Yeah, everyone says that the first year is the hardest, but I never really knew what that meant, like what part was hard about it, and so I didn't really know what to anticipate. But it turns out different parts were hard for both of us. So like for me, the communication part was pretty hard. I was always scared to bring something up with him because I didn't want it to be like our marriage was in trouble and like something was going wrong, and so I don't know, that just made me afraid to bring things up with you when I felt like upset or annoyed or like, you know, I wish you hadn't done something. It was always really scary for me to bring it up. I'd like start crying because I was like, no, our marriage. But it's fine, and that's something I learned to get used to.
Yeah,
that
it's
like
healthy.
you were always really good about listening and understanding and fixing things and working through things with me. So
And I think for me, it was just like adjusting to a new lifestyle. Moving in with you is the first person I've lived with besides my family. I grew up completely surrounded around organization, and whereas we are good at organization, it's not quite to the extreme that I was raised in. And
so everyone says, like, everyone told me before we got married, they were like, have fun living with a man, because moving in with a guy, they're the slobbiest
I'm a
people.
slob.
And it was completely reversed for us. Like, I'm the slob, and you were the one picking up after me, and that's just how it worked with us. So sometimes advice doesn't, it's opposite.
Yeah, it doesn't. There's exceptions to the rule. I mean, you weren't as bad as you made it seem like, but at the same time, like, my house was always very, very super organized, and getting used to the fact that, for one, I didn't have, like a mom organizing the house at all times. It kind of had to fall, both jobs had to fall between Maddie and I. And so like just kind of compromising and being like, it's okay that the house isn't immaculate, 24/7, and just not letting that bug you. That took some time because it did bug me at the beginning because that's how I was raised and that's how life was for me. And then just dumbing it down a little bit and being like, hey, it's okay that, there's some clothes on the ground, You could let that really bug you and let that irritate you, or you can compromise and be like, hey, this is our life now. This isn't someone else's. We have to create our lifestyle, create our routines ourselves. And, it turned out to be a really kind of a beautiful thing, just like making it your own. Instead of trying to adapt from something else. So
those are just a couple things that were hard for us when we first got married, but we want to talk about things that were easy, that we didn't expect to be easy. So for me, I kind of was thinking that when we got married, we would feel different, like marriage was going to feel so different than dating, where it's like, dating was so exciting and there was just like the sparks flying, and I guess we are still kind of newlyweds, but like,
yeah.
I mean, I don't feel like there's the butterfly in my stomach feeling all the time, but like, marriage didn't just make our lives boring. Like, life with you is so fun, and it didn't just all of a sudden become like stressful and lame, and like, yeah, like life with you is a blast, and I don't know why I wasn't really expecting that. I was like really nervous for what would happen. Yeah, it still doesn't feel like it's like a job. Yeah. But for me, it's honestly like kind of the opposite of yours with communication. I got a lot of people that mentored me that told me that communication was, key, of course, and it made me feel like it was going to be extremely hard. And, it kind of was, but at the same time, like, I found it relatively easy to communicate with Maddie, and maybe that just, was just an example of how awesome our relationship is and how God's been involved with it and everything. But at the same time, it's just like, I didn't want to grow resentment between us, and I found that, it's very quickly to grow resentment.
So without communicating it, and being like, hey, this is bugging me, can we fix this, before it grows into something where I, blow up on you, and I don't want that to happen.
Remember how everyone was like wanting us to get in a fight before we got married?
Yeah, but we've had arguments.
We have had arguments. We'd gotten in a couple little arguments before we got married, I remember, but they weren't like yelling fights. And then even this year, we've gotten in arguments that, I think most people would turn them into like yelling matches. I don't know.
Very easily. We had to go through some, we had to talk a little bit louder than we were used to, and just we had to, talk about it, and we were civil about it though. It doesn't have to resort to, full on throwing things against our out our window, and we were just able to civilly discuss it and have a conversation and not instantly,
get heated
and put up a shield and be like, I'm right, you're wrong.
Yeah.
We were able to quickly just be like, hey, okay, what are you feeling? This is how I feel about it. How do we meet in the middle here?
Yeah.
We're one team here. And it usually worked out really, pretty well. We seemed to, fix our issues relatively quickly instead of harboring them for days and days and days, and to the point where we're not even talking to each other. Like, we haven't really gone through that.
Yeah. Something we also realized this year is the importance of love languages and the importance of reevaluating the love languages, because Trev here changed on me.
It did.
Mid-year.
It did. Without even knowing it.
Yeah, we didn't even know it until there was just like this total miss in...
Yeah. We were really struggling with like showing how to show each other love. Not that we weren't doing it. It was just like we were doing it the wrong way.
Yeah.
But she thought she was doing it the right way,
So,
because based upon what I told her and what we had evaluated as our love languages.
Yeah, so it kind of started that day when your sister and I went and cleaned the apartment after we moved out. Trev was like really dreading. We had to go clean the apartment, and so his sister was like, hey, we should go clean the apartment so Trev doesn't have to. And I was like, cool, let's do that. And then when I told Trev, he was like really moved by it. And I was like, wait, what? And we kind of sat and were talking about it, and we realized that he really feels loved when I do things like that, like acts of service. I do chores for him, which, oh boy, is rough, because that's kind of my thing I'm worst at, is doing chores. But that was really eye-opening for me when I was like, originally I thought your love language was, what did I think it was? Like,
well, before we got married, I had always thought that my love languages was physical touch and quality time. Maybe that just stemmed from the fact that like before we had a relationship, I didn't really have a meaningful relationship that had any of those things,
Yeah.
And so like maybe just that was me just craving just quality time with someone, be able to hold your hands and stuff like that. And I never had been able to experience that, and I craved that, and maybe just after having that over a period of time, it went away, and these other things became more important.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Not that I don't want to hold your hands obviously like that, but it became like there were other things that like became really more important to me. And so like she sent me a text like, take this test again. It was the love languages test. I was like, are you serious? I'm like, okay. Yeah, I took it, and it popped out completely different results than what it originally had.
Acts of service. Second
service.
is gifts.
Yeah, that one blew me away though. I didn't believe that one. I was like, no, it's because I think third was words of affirmation.
It's true. It doesn't lie, babe.
I know. Well, apparently I lied the first time.
It was right. You just changed.
It just changed. Yeah. Me coming home and seeing that you weeded the house, weeded some weeds.
I've been doing some weeds.
The weeds, and the dishes. No, just I come home and the house is clean, or there's no dishes, or
that just means a lot to you.
It just means a lot to me.
And it makes you feel loved.
It makes me feel loved, yeah, and it shows that you care about what I care about, and yeah, and it was very interesting to see that evolve.
And it was kind of weird for me before we realized this, because I was thinking that his love language was quality time. And so he'd come home, none of the chores would be done, and I'd be like ready to spend some
out.
time with him. And he'd start doing chores, and I was like, he doesn't love me.
Yeah.
He'd rather do chores than spend time with me. And so, like, that's just really important to know if you're doing the love languages, to know that you can reevaluate and they're not always going to be the same.
Yeah, and that was props to you just for like figuring that out pretty quickly. You know, you recognize why is he doing all these chores, you know, and not spending more time with me, and then recognizing, hey, maybe his love language has changed. You know, it was just like, it was smart. And yeah, I think it's important, like in your relationships, to just...
Those are my words of affirmation. Words of affirmation is my highest one, and so he knows he has to tell me I'm pretty and spend time with me.
Yeah, and when you are doing those things that you know are your spouse's like priorities and love languages, it really does make a huge difference. Like you'll see it. You have to be in it to really recognize it. But once you do that and you're doing it consistently, it really just improves the relationship a lot, and it makes your life a lot easier.
Shout out to the 5 love languages.
Yeah.
So we just want to leave you with one final word of encouragement. Something we didn't get enough of, I think, before we got married. We had some great people in our life, but we also had a lot of people who, both of us did, who would be like, 2 weeks until your wedding. Enjoy life while you can, basically.
It only goes downhill from here.
We want to try and counteract that and just say that marriage is fun. Like, yeah, it's hard and you have to work at it, but so is life, you know, and it's fun to be able to do life together.
I think it's important, you know, before going to marriage, that you're told, like, there is some work to it, you know, it's not all flowers and roses and everything like that.
Yeah, I think they want you to just make sure that you know what you're getting into.
Yeah, but at the same time, people take it too far and are like, no, this sucks. You know, you're going to have a horrible time. You're going to regret this, you know, like, and that's like honestly what we were hearing from some people. And I'm like, you're a great friend.
Well, yeah, I had someone come up to me at work while I was like making some copies, and she was like, you're getting married soon. And I was like, yeah, and I was kind of bracing myself. And then she goes, you're gonna love it. You're gonna have so much fun. And I just remember being really caught off guard. And I was like, you know, I think you're the first person to say that to me, which is so sad, but... Yeah,
and we got good encouragement from our families, of course, and everything like that.
Yeah.
But just hearing it from, like, people besides your family could go a long way. So for those of you that, you know, are going into marriage, remember that. But also those of you who have friends that are going into marriage, you know, be that person that can tell them, like, hey, you may not be married, but at the same time, you can still tell them, like, hey, I'm sure you guys are gonna have a great time, you know, just that may make a huge difference.
Because it's
with
scary,
your friends.
you know, it's a scary step to take, and so it's just nice to have someone who is there, who's married, and have that person say that it's not horrible, like, it's fun. Yes, be ready, you know, make sure you know what you're getting into, but marriage is fun.
It's worth it.
It's worth it. We hope this was enjoyable and helpful for you guys, and that you learned a little bit of some stuffs from us. I don't think that's proper.
Some stuff from us? That's how you're gonna end
it. I don't know how to end it. Bye!
Love you guys.
Love you.
I love you.
I think communication was the hardest.